Let us get started. Where am I? Okay. Get this off my screen. Now, can everyone see the screen?
Yes, sir.
The thought
Yes.
in the mind talking about the parable of the garden. I typed in the words in the AI thing that I use to create these pictures. Black man and black woman in righteous garb, standing together with the universe. And this is the picture that it generated for me. And when I saw that sister with that head wrap, I said, and I tried 4 or 5 different photos or pictures, but when I saw that serious looking sister with that head wrap, I said, that's the one I want to use. So
Beautiful.
we're going to look at what's called the parable of the garden and the 4 rivers. We're going to touch on the problem book. I was going to go into one of the calculations, but I have yet to figure out how it would connect. So I will not include that as of yet. We'll save that for another time. The opening ayat, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. And guard yourselves against the fire which has been prepared for the disbelievers, and obey Allah and the Messenger, that you may be shown mercy. And hasten to forgiveness from your Lord, in a garden as wide as the heavens and the earth. It is prepared for those who keep their duty. That is Surat al-Imran, the family of Imran. That is Surah 3, Ayat 131 to 133. And as soon as I read this, and I've seen this once before, where it talks about a garden as wide as the heavens and the earth, it brought me to the question, what could be meant by a garden that is as wide as the heavens and the earth? Does anyone have any thoughts? How could a garden be as wide as the heavens and the earth? Go ahead, Sister Angela.
The first thing that comes to mind with me is thoughts. The garden being a portion of Allah's many subjects, let's put it that way, or dynamics, and how it's producing and how we can feed on it, because a garden is different than a park, you know what I mean? Or so it's something that is producing nourishment. And Allah's garden can never be exhausted, like the Holy Quran says. It's his word. That's how I see it.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly where we're going with it. See, those on the wheel can detect thoughts in advance. So I just throw that out there. So she was probably tuning in on this as this was being produced. We're going to talk about the universe. So the garden as wide as the heaven and the earth. The garden is a key word. And by Allah's grace, this word garden, that when we clear this in Arabic, brings us actually right to the tone scale. And you're going to see how it fits perfectly with the tone scale.
Right.
So what are the learning objectives for tonight? First, we're going to ask the question, well, how wide is the heavens? Okay. What could be meant by the term garden? And then there's another ayat we're going to touch on that speaks about these 4 rivers. And we want to see if we can find agreement between the supreme wisdom and the supreme technology, and see if we can connect the garden to the tech of Dianetics, the science of the mind. Let's see if we can connect the 4 rivers, because all this is allegory, correct? Do we understand
Yes, sir.
allegory?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's allegory. And then how can all this be connected to the mind? Can we find a marriage between the supreme wisdom lessons and the supreme technology? And I think by Allah's grace, we might be pleasantly surprised. Well, what is the width of the heavens? Does anyone know the width of the heavens?
Mm.
It's problem number 27 in our problem book. The universe diameter equals 76 quintillion miles. Then the question is asked, what is the area in square miles and in square yards? And give your answer in figures only. And your brother sat here and took the time and actually did the math on that and figured it out. I'm not going to include it in this, but based on the diameter being 76 quintillion miles, by Allah's grace, I was able to calculate the area in square miles and in square yards. And maybe we'll use that at another time when we actually specifically do the math on a Wednesday. We won't be doing it this Wednesday because I think everyone's going to be traveling. God willing, we'll do it next Wednesday. So based on what the Savior gives us in the problem book, with the width of the universe being 76 quintillion miles, and based on what we're given in the Holy Quran, it says the garden mentioned in the Holy Quran, I'm thinking that this garden that's spoken of would be 76 quintillion miles. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. So we're tying together. And Sister Anya, at the beginning of this, we were talking about 76 trillion years. There's something about this 76, isn't there? Okay. Now, since we're on that point of 76, Sister Anya, you still with us?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. Okay.
And I have a question.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I was trying to find the little button to raise my hand. The first part, the first sentence there, the universe diameter equals 76 quintillion miles.
Mhm.
And then it asks you what is the area in square miles and in square yards.
Mhm.
So I immediately saw there that it's, and I'm not saying it in a way that the Savior is incorrect, or that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is incorrect, but that it means something more than just those measurements, because
Mhm.
the diameter would be talking about a circle.
The diameter is the length from one side of the universe to the other.
Right. But
Right.
normally when you talk about the diameter of something, you're talking about a circular,
Right.
Mhm.
Something that's circular.
Mhm.
But then it talks about the area
Mhm.
in square miles. So the universe is not flat, or I'm assuming, let me not say that it is not flat. I guess in my mind, I don't think of the universe as being flat, like on a flat plane,
Mhm.
simply because we know that the Earth itself is not a flat, we don't live on a flat plane. We
Mhm.
live, it's circular, or a curved, it has a curved, and it's a sphere.
Mhm.
So when it started talking about area in square miles, it's almost like you when you're talking about area, that's more, what's the word? I guess two-dimensional.
That's two-dimensional. Yes.
Two-dimensional, right? That's the language I'm looking for.
Mhm.
Whereas when something is circular, now you're talking about more than it being more than two-dimensional.
Then you would be the question would be, what is the volume?
Right. So why is he asking for the area instead of the volume?
That's a good question.
So that was what I saw there.
That's a good question. But just the fact of producing that question, could we say that it produced a question that you had never thought about before?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Then that's part of what we would call postulate processing. So it's by another degree, you've posed another question that has done what? It's gone outside of the normal circumference, which means which has happened to the diameter of your thinking.
It expanded.
It expanded the diameter of your thinking. So now it actually increased the circumference of your mind, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That would be, I can tell you right now, just to sit here and figure out the area of the universe in square miles and square yards was enough to try to do the volume, which is a totally different equation. But now that you have mentioned it, I know I'm going to probably, there's going to be a time I'm going to try to figure that out. But there's so many zeros involved in these calculations, it becomes tedious,
Mm-hmm.
interesting nonetheless. Who has their Holy Qurans handy? Does everyone have their Holy Qurans handy? The Maulana Muhammad Ali translation? Yes, no?
I can get it.
Okay. There's something really interesting about the Maulana Muhammad Ali translation of the Holy Quran. Part of this is based on what Mother Tanetta Muhammad had said in the past about the number 76. The other part is something that I had found with the help of Allah in the Holy Quran. Let's see. Okay. Let's start by look at the Surah Al-Fatiha for just a quick minute. Okay, look at Al-Fatiha. Has everyone got it? Whoever's got the Holy Quran?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to show this. I want to show you something, and I have checked this and double checked this more than once. If you look at Al-Fatiha, the opening chapter, you see where it says part 1, then it says chapter 1, and then it says Al-Fatiha in Arabic, and then it says the opening.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you look up at the top of the page, you see that little strip with the Arabic writing in it?
My particular, okay, yes, sir.
Okay. This is only in the Maulana Muhammad Ali translation.
Yes, sir.
At the top, if you knew the Arab, if you understand the Arabic letters, you'll see the word Fatiha up there. Okay. Every chapter of the Holy Quran has the transliteration, which the Arabic, the English translation, and then it has the chapter written in Arabic at the top. If you go to Surat al-Baqarah, the cow, what you will see is it'll say Al-Baqarah, it'll say the cow, and if you look up in that strip along the top, you'll see Albaqarah, Baqarah. Does everyone follow that so far?
Well, I'm not familiar with the Arabic.
Right, you're not, if you're not familiar with the Arabic, the letters, okay. But now, if you go to Surah 76, if you go to Surah 76, Surah 76 is the only surah in the Holy Quran that doesn't follow this pattern. Surah 76, and the reason why this is so important, Mother Tanetta Muhammad said that 76 is also another number that represents Master Farad Muhammad. Because this talks about the perfect man. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
You know, that's the last member the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave as a mosque too.
Oh, really?
And it happens to be Patterson, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 76 represents the perfected man. And if I remember correctly, Mother Tanetta Muhammad said that the Savior represents the first perfected man from the creation of the universe. Does that make sense? Y'all with me?
Okay, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Like I said, I can't see anyone, so I can only go based on what I hear. Now, it says al-insan, correct? And it says the man. But at the top, the Arabic does not say al-insan. This is the only surah in the Holy Quran that does this. The Arabic says duhur, D-A-H-R, or dahar. So this surah actually has two names. Al-Insan, based on what you see, and the Arabic at the top says al-dahar. And when you look up the Arabic word al-dahar, it means a very, very long period of time. Perhaps it means 76 trillion years, who knows? But the number 76 in the Arabic word means a very, very long period of time. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Absolute sense.
Okay, so it's just one of those things in the Holy Quran that makes you say, okay, there's something more to this. There's something more to the numbers. Okay. But let's get back to the garden. I thought I'd just throw that out there. So how could the width of the universe be connected to the self? Everything that we present tonight is going to be in order to answer that question right there, which we will answer finally at the end of the presentation. Okay. Now, the garden. What is the garden talking about? So in the Holy Quran, it says, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, a parable of the garden, which the dutiful are promised. Therein are rivers of water not altering for the worse, and rivers of milk whereof the taste changes not, and rivers of wine delicious to the drinkers, and rivers of honey clarified, and for them therein are all fruits and protection from the Lord. Are these like those who abide in the fire, and who are made to drink boiling water, so it rends their bowels asunder? Now, Allah says that some of his verses are decisive, and they're the foundation of the book, and others are allegorical, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as I read this ayat, and I looked at these four rivers, the first thought that came to mind is, if the garden represents the mind, then what do these four rivers represent? And if the garden represents the mind, and the tech, the Dianetics, is the science of the mind, then there has to be a connection. Since Allah says in the Holy Quran, he's given us a book explaining all things, the thought that came to mind is, these four rivers are connected to our thinking or our thoughts. And somehow these four rivers are connected to the tech of Dianetics. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a connection between all of this. Go ahead, Brother Wadud.
Yes, sir. In preparation, Assalamu alaikum first.
Yes, sir.
In preparation for session tonight, after you sent out what we would be discussing or what you would be covering, I looked up, I was reminded of how in archaic medicine, there was listed what were called the four humors of the body.
Okay.
HUMORS, and then the archaic is HUMOURS. And as you said, the four rivers, and the four humors were supposed to be the different fluids of the body. And so what I found was that they called them, I'm trying to find it here in my what I had looked at. The humors, 4 individual psychological temperaments: melancholic, sanguine, choleric, and phlegmatic.
Okay. What is the phlegmatic? What was that?
I haven't read through the whole piece here. These were
Okay.
just, but it's spelled out of the word phlegm.
Oh, okay. Phlegm.
P-H-L
Okay. Okay.
P-H-L-E-G-M-A-T-I-C.
Okay. Okay. So it's talking about 4 different types of bodily fluids.
And they were also given colors. There was black bile, yellow or red bile, blood, and then phlegm.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. That's something else to study now. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Praise be to Allah. Does someone else have their hand up?
I do.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, yes, sir. So when you were reading, I immediately thought about the 4 devils we are asked to present at one time,
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
and possibly connecting with Brother Wadu, because we know that the throne of power is sitting water, the brain. And I'm coming. Well, it has me thinking of 4 different states of or development into a god, maybe.
Okay.
These 4 different rivers, or maybe it's 4 things at one time. Just like presenting the devils, it could be the exact opposite of what we are taught to do in Supreme Wisdom.
Okay, so we're bringing out some new information. And Brother Wadu, towards the end, I'm going to pose another question to see if we can tie this to something else that I found at the end of 4 humors. But just in case I forget, please remind me at the end.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So this is Surah 47, ayat number 15. So the key terms in this that we're going to address are, number 1, the word garden. That's the key term. We want to look at the rivers of water, which are not altering for the worse. We want to look at the rivers of milk, whereof the taste changes not. The rivers of wine, delicious to the drinkers. The rivers of honey, clarified. And we want to understand, what does it mean when it says that all fruits and protection from the Lord? Okay, so this garden has 4 rivers that produce fruits and protection. Then there are those who abide in the fire, and they're made to drink boiling water. And the effect of drinking the boiling water is that it rends their bowels asunder. So what we would like to do tonight, with the help of Allah, is to look at this allegorically and see if we can connect this with some biology, connect this to the tech, connect this to the rules and the science of thinking, and see if we can produce a marriage. So the garden and its width, the word garden is derived from the Arabic word Jannah. We've heard that word before, right? Jannah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the word Jannah in Arabic has two basic significances that are opposite one another. So this word has 2 meanings. Okay, this word has 2 meanings. Have you ever seen in the Holy Quran where it talks about 2 gardens? Yes, no? Sister Ania?
Yes, sir. No, not for there.
Sister Ania, you got your hand up?
I did, but it wasn't answering your question.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Brother Wadu to repeat those 4 things that he mentioned.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go
The
ahead.
humors of the body.
Yes, ma'am. The four humors listed, um, four individual psychological temperaments: melancholic, sanguine, SANGUINE, choleric, CHOLERIC, and phlegmatic, PHLEGMATIC.
And then you mentioned Fordic, which you said bile.
Yes, ma'am. From the context, the word humor in the archaic means fluid. And so the human body was thought to contain a mix of four humors: black bile, also known as melancholy, yellow or red bile, blood, and phlegm.
Okay, so the yellow bile being the sanguine.
Sanguineness, from in modern medicine, we look at as being a rose color pink fluid. So, and of note, they have the yellow and the red bile as one. They don't have it separate as a separate fluid. So it's black, red, and yellow are together. They call it yellow or red, but
Yes.
those count as one whole. Then blood is a separate one, and phlegm is the fourth.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
And I also saw, I don't know if this has any significance and whether it might be a stretch, but in Surah 76, it mentioned four times it referred to water of sorts. So the first mention was surely it says, surely there came over man a time when he was nothing that could be mentioned. Surely we have created man from sperm mixed with ovum to try him. So that's, the water, the sperm being the water, there of which life comes out of water. Then the second mention is the righteous truly drink of a cup tempered with camphor, a fountain from which the servants of Allah drink, making it flow in abundance. The third one mentions a drink therein in a cup tempered with ginger, of a fountain therein called salsabil. But before it talks about that one, it says, and round about them are made to go vessels of silver and goblets of glass, crystal clear. That caught my eye. Made of silver, they are measured. They have measured them according to a measure. And I thought that was interesting, since you gave the problem for the width of the earth, of the universe. And then this talks about a measure in Surah 76. And then the fourth mention would be in verse 21, where it says, and their Lord makes them to drink a pure drink. So that's four times that liquid is mentioned there. I just thought that was, since we're talking about the four rivers, and then you mentioned Surah 76 and the diameter of the universe, and we're talking about the science of mind and the fact that it mentions four rivers, and then here water is mentioned four times as well.
So now the next assignment is we got to see if the four rivers that we're speaking about tonight is connected with those four drinks that are mentioned in 76.
Yes, sir.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Thank you, Sasania. That's a whole nother assignment now. So on one level, the word Jannah means to descend. It means to fall, to become insane, to become mad, to become angry. It means insanity, mania, obsession. And the word jinn actually is a derivative of the word Jannah, which means demons. Does that make sense? Yes, no? Everyone with me still?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But then Jannah also means a rich, well-cultivated region. It means heart, it means soul, it means euphoria, it means heaven, it means transported state. Another word that comes up is the word rapture, which means a mystical experience in which the spirit is exalted to a knowledge of divine things. It means to fill with joy. Now, so you see how the word Jannah is almost like a coin that has two sides to it? Can you see that?
Yes, sir. I definitely can see that. And it made me think of the fact that in the Quran, it talks about two different types of gardens.
Yes, yes. That's what I had asked earlier. There's two types of garden. Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Mhm. Okay, now watch how this fits into the tone scale. So let's look at the tone scale real quick and then look at Jannah. So you got tone 40. At tone 40, based on the chart of human evaluation, the mind is infinite. 40 is just an arbitrary number. He's saying that the tone scale can go way beyond 40. Does that make sense? Okay. So 40 is just an arbitrary number. Tone 36 is up in the area of what's called serenity. Then you got tone 4.0, which on the Hubbard chart of human evaluation is a messed clear. Okay, messed clear. Then you have 3.5, which is a release. 3.0 is enthusiasm. 2.5 represents boredom. When you get down to 2.0, you get overt hostility. At 1.5, you get anger. And at 1.1, you get covert hostility. And then at 0.5, you get apathy. Now, we're all familiar with this tone scale, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this tone scale, really one way of looking at this is he's assigning numerical values arbitrarily to emotional levels so that the emotional tone can be measured quantitatively. Does that make sense? So now we can turn this into a mathematics. Now, is there a relationship between these tone levels in the Holy Quran and in the two gardens that we just spoke about? That's what we want to look at. So I'm gonna put these back up here. Now watch this. If we look at the top part of the tone scale, those are all positive emotions, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Correct.
When you look at the bottom, those are all what we can consider negative emotions, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Now, if I take the definition for Jannah and put it up here, doesn't it agree with the upper part of the tone scale? A rich, well-cultivated region, heart, soul, euphoria, heaven, transported state to fill with joy, mystical experience in which the spirit is exalted to a knowledge of divine things. Doesn't that agree with the top part of the tone scale?
That's right.
Okay. Now the word boredom. Now, let me say this before we go into this. What is so interesting about tone 2.5? Okay, remember 2.5 is boredom, right? Haven't we been taught that the idle mind is the devil's workshop?
Yes.
Okay. And we've also been told that when you get into a state of boredom, what state do you get in that causes the engrams to turn on? Do you remember from book one? Do you remember what mental state takes place right before the engrams click on? You ever remember reading that when you become anxious or tired or fatigued? Have you ever read that before?
They have.
Yes, sir.
If I did, I missed it.
Okay. When you get fatigued, because remember, when you get fatigued, you're closer to a state. You're if you look at it from the level of brain frequency, okay. Uh, right now we're operating around beta frequency. Interesting. Okay, so you have beta, you have alpha, and then you have theta. If you look at this actually lines up with brain frequency, where they do what's called EEGs. Um, when we become tired or weary, we're dropping down in brain frequency. This is when the engrams click on. Okay. Interesting enough. Okay, you have beta. You have beta is awake. Y'all with me? Alpha.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
alpha is when you're slightly tired. Theta is almost like a state of deep meditation. And then below that is what's called delta. That's when you're asleep. Okay. Above beta, you have one called gamma. Gamma
Oh,
is
yeah.
some called superconsciousness. This is where you have the mystical experiences, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so you have 5 levels. You have gamma, which is the highest. You have beta, alpha, theta, and then delta. Guess what brain frequency gamma is? It's around the area of 40. Interesting.
Hmm.
Brain frequency is lining up with the tone scale. Okay. But the point I'm trying to make here is this. When we become weary, fatigued, this is when we're more susceptible to engrams. Have you ever heard the minister talk about the relationship between evening and why we begin to fall victim to our low desires when the sun goes down? Have you ever seen that before?
Sundown. Yeah.
Okay. So then the thought was, what is the word boredom in Arabic? And does it line up with the tone scale? The word boredom in Arabic is hasara, which means fatigued or to turn back. Does that make sense? Is this lining up with the tone scale?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So now let's look at the other side of Jannah and see if it lines up with the bottom part of the tone scale. The other definition for Jannah is to descend, to fall, to become insane, to become mad, to become angry, insanity, mania, or obsession. Doesn't the word Jannah on both sides line up with the tone scale?
Yes, sir.
It does.
Brother Lukman,
Yes.
could you give an example of what overt hostility and covert hostility would, that would manifest?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Most definitely. Let's say we work together. Let's say we work together in the same environment. Overt hostility is I come to you and just tell you how I really feel about you to your face. Okay, it's overt. It's open. Okay. Covert hostility is what I call, on some levels, I call it passive aggressiveness. You do stuff behind people's back to get back at them, but you don't really let them know that you're doing it. then you sit back and you laugh, but you do stuff undercover. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So
Thank
you're
you.
hostile, but it's under the cover.
Okay.
It's when you go, it's like when people go in the fridge and they put stuff in your food, and then you giggle about it. You watch the person eating the food. Not saying you would, I'm just saying in general. So you watch the person eat it and you're giggling, and then they find it, and then they look around, okay, who did this? And then you act like, oh, I don't know. I wasn't even here. But inside you're laughing because you know that you're the one that did it. Okay. So that's overt hostility and covert hostility. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Who else has their hand up? Sister Patricia.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
When you were going over this, I was thinking about the dementia patient that I have taken care of, and they call it sundown because when the sun's going down, then the tone scale with this anger and all that comes out of that individual. They get really aggressive, and when you was talking about that, I was thinking about dementia patients because that seems like that's similar to what they go through when that sun goes down through the daytime. They're okay. Some of them, it depends on which stage because it's like 3 or 4 stages of dementia, and they be laughing and smiling, but when that sun goes down, they go through this anger. And they were talking about that. Even when I don't want to get too far away, like a full moon, a new moon coming out, it changes people's mindset. And just pay attention when these new moons come out, how aggressive some people is. Some people, they're very calm. So when you talked about the ocean, I thought you were relating to water, which is life. And when the brother was talking about the phlegm and the blood is in water and all that, phlegm, that's sickness, that's death. Because I was recently sick, and I tell you, that stuff that was coming up out of me, you like, what is this? Is he dying? Because it's all that bacteria and all that stuff is coming out of you, which is good because you don't want to settle into the lungs. But the point is, when you talk about the boiling water, that's death. And then when you're talking about the garden and the criteria, that was the main topic of the garden and the criteria. So you're looking about life and death. So I'll have to take these careful. I'll die out. I just wanted to speak on that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So does everyone see how the word Jannah actually has ARC with the tone scale? Does that make sense? Does anyone not see it? Are we good on this point?
I had my hand raised.
Okay, yes, ma'am, I see you.
Okay. My comment actually was right along the lines of what Sister Patricia just explained, because I immediately thought of people who have bipolar. They go through those exact same, they go from that euphoric state, being overly joyous, happy, and everything is great, and they can tackle the whole world, and they can do everything, and there's nothing is wrong, everything is great, and their energy may be very high, and then they may take on too much. But if you can always tell when they're getting ready to go to the other side, and go through the mania, when they start getting very tired. And there's you see a serious drop in their countenance. They become very lethargic, and then they'll start slipping into those lower tones, and that's more when you start seeing the aggression and the hostility coming out and the personality changes. So you know, when you mentioned that about that being associated with being tired and having low energy and fatigue, that is normally what I would observe in bipolar patients, that they go through that, and then it's very easy for them to you know, if they can you know, it's a person that I knew, they would often say, I've got to go late and I've got to get, you know, just sleep. And oftentimes that person would be able to, if they could go to sleep, they could get through it, through that that change. And when they wake up, you know, they might still be a little low on energy, but they could deal with it without flipping out.
Mm-hmm.
But if they didn't get that rest and when they really needed it, then it would go into even lower levels, and the hostility and everything would go out, and then they may have that psychotic break and really flip.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. There was a movie, Sister Angela, you might be able to help me with this. There was a movie that came out maybe a couple of years ago, and it was actually about this very subject of sundowning. Do you remember that, Sister Angela?
You know, as soon as you was talking about it, I did recall something like that, but give me a minute, I'll find it.
Yes, ma'am.
And I actually had a neighbor that had, they called downs. And he had downs, and I'm telling you, it's like clockwork. Every time the sun went down, it was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Mm-hmm. All right. Brother Wadu.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask a question as it pertains to the spelling of the word Jen and Jenna and the positive and the negative, because I've seen it spelled Jenna for Jenna, which is the positive, and then I've seen it spelled Jinn for the Jinn of the negative spirit. So is there a correlation between the spelling, the changing of the vowel from an E to an I?
Let's see. When you look at the Arabic, and let's see. You got Jinn, Jinn, and let's see. There are various ways of spelling it. When as soon as you the root word is Jannah, Janna, and then you have with the Arabic, when you change the vowel sounds, that changes the word. So there are slight differences. Like for garden, let's see. Like you have Jinn, that's spelled Jinni. As soon as you put a YA at the end, that makes it feminine. Janna, Janna, means garden. So the various ways of spelling it will change the meaning of it. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay. Let me get back here. All right. So the garden and its width. Here's the key word. Here's the key word. The word width. Arduha. Arduha. It means to come to someone's mind, to visualize or to weigh, to turn one's attention, to review in one's imagination, to call up or conjure. So when I looked at the garden and its width, I looked at that as it could represent the mind and the ability to visualize, postulate, or bring into existence. Does that make sense? Does everyone see that? The
Yes.
garden and its width, and then just looking at the word width and garden being the mind, the garden, the mind's ability to visualize, the mind's ability to postulate, the mind's ability to bring up in the imagination. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But now, so Jannah is given to the dutiful. But now the word Jannah, we looked at it at both sides of the tone scale, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then we can either be dutiful in wrong behavior or we can be dutiful in righteous conduct, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
So based upon our intentions and actions, we determine which garden that we will inhabit. In other words, whatever garden we're in, that's the one we have chosen. Could we say that?
That's true.
Okay, just something to think about.
You're right.
You know, sometimes we're in a certain circumstance, but doesn't Allah say in the Holy Quran that it's based on what our own hands have brought?
Mm-hmm.
So we have made a choice. Now, even though some of us have made the choice based on an aberrated mind, if we look back on our time track at some of the crazy situations we got ourselves in, wasn't that a choice
Yes,
that we
sir.
made?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. These were choices that we made.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the question is, when we look at the tone scale, and we look at Jenna and the two gardens, the question is, what are we turning our minds to? Okay. What are we visualizing? What are we reviewing in our imagination? What thoughts are we conjuring up?
Hmm.
Because there's two gardens, and we can choose basically. Didn't the Most High Elijah Muhammad said, if you follow the teachings, you will set yourself in heaven at once?
That's right.
Okay. So we have the ability to choose.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Let's look at the four rivers now. Four rivers. So in that ayat, there's actually 5 drinks that are mentioned. Okay, there's 5 drinks. 4 of them are for the believers, and 1 is for the disbeliever. Okay. Do y'all remember that?
No.
Okay, so there was the rivers of water, there was the rivers of milk, the rivers of wine, and then there was the rivers of honey. That was for the believers. And then for the disbelievers was boiling water.
Okay.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Carol. Happy Savior's Day.
Walaikum Walaikum salam, sir.
How are you?
On my way to work.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Uh, Fine, sir. Just a little tired, but
Yes, ma'am. Just don't sundown on us. So
yes, sir.
here's the 4 drinks for the believers and 1 for the disbeliever. And what we want to do is we want to say, is there a connection to the tech? Okay. Is there a connection to the tech? Is this an allegory that represents our mind? So now rivers of water. Okay. So it says a parable of the garden, which the dutiful are promised. Therein are rivers of water, not altering for the worse. And MMA just means Maulana Muhammad Ali translation. Okay. The word rivers in Arabic is nahra, which means large quantity. It also means to flow copiously. When you look up the word water in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it means a degree of excellence. But water is also used to describe knowledge. The Arabic word for water is maha, which means to flow smoothly or like clockwork. Incorruptible, so water not altering for the worse, or water that's incorruptible. When you look at the word asinin, it means brackish, and brackish means repulsive. So this water that's not altering represents knowledge that's not repulsive. Does that make sense? Or we could say it represents knowledge that's not repulsive, yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now I want to pose this question to the believers. What could, but based on these definitions, what could the water, the rivers of water that are incorruptible, represent to us on the level of our mind and our thinking?
Please repeat that again.
Okay. When you look at all the definitions of water, to rivers of water that are incorruptible, we're talking about water could represent knowledge. It could represent excellence. It's talking about excellence and knowledge that's flowing, that's not repulsive, that's not brackish, that's not negative. So we're talking about pure water, pure excellence, pure knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Sister Angela.
It would have to be truth for me.
Okay.
Incorruptible.
Okay. I can work with that, most definitely. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else?
Are you looking for comparisons to the tech? Then I would think that would be like a tone 40 being clear.
Okay. Okay. I'm not looking for anything specific. I'm picking your brains to see how you see this. Okay. So tone 40, yes, we can say tone 40, because at tone 40, your mind is, remember we're talking about in the tech, you have the word flow, right? You have flow, you have ridge and dispersals, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yes, we can accept that. That's a great answer also, because at tone 40, your mind has to be flowing. You are showing excellence. You are manifesting knowledge. You are doing everything just like clockwork. Yes, ma'am, most definitely. Anyone else? Okay. So does everyone got the rivers of water in their mind? Does all that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's look at the rivers of milk. Rivers of milk whereof the taste changes not. So now, again, we have the word rivers, large amount, and here we have the word flow. So here the word river, we're showing that the word river in Arabic has ARC with the concept of flow and Dianetics. Does that make sense? Yeah, with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the word milk, outside of meaning milk, the Arabic word is labana, which means to wish, to desire, to desire an object, to aim, it means a goal. It's an undertaking or an enterprise. Okay. So when you look at the word changing, the word changing in Arabic is gaira, which means to be jealous, to be indecent or immoral. But here is the negation of the word that changes not. So it's not jealous, it's not indecent, and it's not immoral. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So
Okay.
what could the rivers of milk represent? Anyone? I'll tell you, I'll give you, what I saw, and that might start the flow. if the word milk means wish, desire, a goal, or an aim, to me that represents a postulate or a cognition. So if rivers of milk means I'm flowing all these postulates that are not indecent and not immoral. I'm flowing righteous postulates. I'm flowing righteous ideas. I'm flowing righteous thoughts. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. To me, that also, well, since you added your thought to it, then it would mean that we would be in our God consciousness, because God's will cannot be frustrated or changed.
Yes, ma'am.
So if this rivers or milk means not changing, then I think we're postulating in a God consciousness.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. And remember, the word milk in the Holy Quran, if you go to the parable of the cow, isn't it described as a pure drink, agreeable to the drinker?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So now we have the rivers of water and we have the rivers of milk. Y'all,
Brother Lukman,
go ahead,
when
Sister
Sister
Patricia.
was just saying that about when you take that word as we parsing enterprise, that's building,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
And then you go to chapter, you go to study guide building the wheel,
Mm-hmm.
and you relate it to defining that of building the wheel. So as you speaking on that, it all relates together.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's why our lessons is the fulfillment based on what the Savior has told us in rule number 3, 13 rules of 13 rules of instruction. Our lessons is the fulfillment. So now, could we say that flowing the flowing water and the flowing milk, if it's dealing with business and enterprise and undertaking, is this connected to the luxury, money, good homes, and friendships in all walks of life? Meaning, is a mystery God going to bring luxury, money, good homes, or friendships in all walks of life, or do we have to build that? Hello?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Could we say that's connected to the luxury, money, good homes, and friendships in all walks of life?
Oh, yes, sir. That's correct.
Because that's dealing with business, right? Undertaking,
Right.
enterprise. Okay, because we don't believe in a mystery God.
That's right.
Okay. So are we clear on the rivers of water and the rivers of milk?
Yes.
Okay. Rivers of wine. It says rivers of wine delicious to the drinker. So we already got rivers down. Rivers is equivalent. Rivers has ARC with the word flow. Wine, the word is Cameron, which means to become ripe or ripen. And it talks specifically about an idea in someone's mind. That's the Arabic meaning. Delicious means in Arabic to please or to give pleasure. The word drinkers in Arabic is shariba, which means to drink, to impregnate, to be filled with, or to be absorbed. Now, the way I looked at this, just to kind of set the stage, is the rivers of wine, delicious to the drinker, is that the mind is flowing. I have an idea in my mind and I'm flowing so heavy with it, I become filled or totally absorbed by it. I'm impregnated by it. My whole being is absorbed by manifesting this idea. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anyone else have any way that they see it?
Cup running over.
Cup runneth over. Meaning, yes, that's wonderful. My cup runneth over, meaning I have so many ideas. Allah has blessed me with so many ideas. I'm just so I'm just so busy creating by Allah's grace because my cup runneth over. I just have so many ideas that I just have to write all this stuff down. And now I have the means by which to get the luxury money, the good homes and the friendships and all walks of life, because all that money, does it not begin with an idea?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything they would like to
But
add?
then you, or no, for that to happen, you have to be in the right state of mind to be able to accomplish that.
Which is exactly why we need to be in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Okay. So we got the rivers of water. We got the rivers of milk. Then we got the rivers of wine. So the way I saw it was this could be an allegorical statement that represents having great ideas that flow. And in the carrying out of these ideas is what brings us pleasure. This could be artwork. This could be a musical composition. This could be sitting down, for myself to sit down and study mathematics. That's something that just gives me pleasure. I enjoy sitting down and going through math. Some people like sewing. Some people, they like cooking. These are, some of us get into the kitchen and we get creative and come up with new recipes, new ideas, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We started out, we just had an idea in our mind. We get in, and some of us, we couldn't wait to get home because the kitchen might be where that's where we find our Jannah. That's our pleasure. That's our area of peace is cooking. Turn on a little jazz music in the background and whatnot, and just you spend that time by yourself doing what you enjoy, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, brother doctor.
Yes, sir. Paraphrasing a memory of the minister's words, he stated that the greatest joy or pleasure for the man or the human is to have something envisioned in their mind and see themselves bring it into reality.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that time he was talking about Michael Jordan, how boys would go to sleep and envision themselves doing the great feats that they would see Michael Jordan perform on the court, and then being able to bring what's in the mind into full manifestation is the greatest joy for the human.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The minister has said that on many occasions. He talked about creativity. We find pleasure in bringing ideas. Now, that there's a clip of the minister speaking about that, and there's a clip of the minister talking about the sun going down. If you go to the Supreme Wisdom Meets Supreme Technology Facebook page, I post all the ministers, the clips there. Both of those clips are on that Facebook page as well. Thank you, Brother Wadu.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So to me, this was to have great ideas that flow in the mind that bring pleasure. That's the wine. Now, in the tech, wouldn't that be a pleasure moment?
Oh, yes. Yes, it will.
Okay, that'd be a pleasure moment. Okay. Rivers of honey. It says rivers of honey clarify. The word honey in Arabic means to make sweet or to make pleasant. And clarified also means purified, comes from the root word safa, which means to make clear. Ooh, there's the word. There it is, to make clear. Then we also have honey in the Holy Quran in Surat al-Nahl, the B, Surah 16, Ayat 69. There comes forth from the bellies a beverage of many hues, in which is a healing for men. Therein is surely a sign for people who reflect. So could honey clarified be an allegorical representation representing a knowledge that provides a healing that produces the state of clear. Could we say that?
Wow, beautiful.
Would anyone like to add on to that, or gonna keep it moving? Okay, so here's a summary, quick summary of the 4 drinks. Rivers of pure water, we're saying that represents flowing thoughts. Well, that's called theta, right? Yes, y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So thought is theta. And the whole point of auditing is to get back those attention units that are stuck in past events, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the more theta we can get, the more water we're drinking. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So flowing
right.
thoughts means that we're not occluded or we're unoccluded, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Rivers of milk unchanging. Okay. Agreeable, meaning not indecent, not self-respect. It means to have ARC, right? Affinity, reality, and communication. We're in agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Rivers of delicious wine. And we said that that could represent thoughts that bring pleasure. We said that could be pleasure moments. Yes.
Yes.
And rivers of honey purified, that could represent processing, because processing is what heals us, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So can we see how each of these 4 drinks line up with 4 concepts in the tech of Dianetics? Can we see it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's so plain when you lay it out.
Okay.
Plain as day.
All praise is due to Allah. Allah says, I've given you a book explaining all things. But we have to take the time to
Mm-hmm.
go in and parse through it and dig, like the minister says, dig and find all the jewels that Allah shows us. Okay. And then when Allah blesses us to see certain things, the goal is not to hide our light under a bushel basket. It is to share with others, but to remain humble, because we're not the source of the truth, correct?
What you are doing.
And I will not try to even get myself in that predicament. So the pure water is theta unoccluded. Rivers of milk is ARC. The wine represents the pleasure moments, and the honey purified are the processes that lead clear. Are we clear on those 4?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have agreement. Now, what is the result of those 4 drinks? It says in that same ayah, says, for them therein are all fruits and protection from their Lord. Well, when we look at the word fruits, it means benefit, it means to profit, it means to gain, it means to be productive. So we're not just talking about fruit, so now you get apples and bananas, but the word fruit, when we clear that word, the word is thamara, and it means benefit. Okay. So now, if we have those 4 rivers, shouldn't we receive a benefit? Shouldn't we get case gain? Shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
our tone go up?
Yes.
Okay. And if our tone is up, that means we're being productive, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then protection, the Arabic word is ghafra, which means to forgive or to protect from sins. Could the flow of thought, the pleasure moments, the ARC with our teachings, meaning we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we're making our prayers, we're paying our zakat. If we're in ARC with the universe, along with the processes that lead us to the state of clear, produce a benefit, allow us to be productive, that protect us from our shortcomings. So if we're working, we can't work and have shortcomings at the same time, correct?
No.
Okay. And that's why, if you remember, working is tone 20, yes?
Mhm.
And remember, the Most High
Yes, sir.
Muhammad says, if you're sick, work.
Work.
If you're tired, work. He said work is what we do to get us out of these ruts, right?
And Brother Lukman, you know, that is so true because this past moment, I was really sick, but I still was getting up, doing things around the house, taking care of the grandchildren. And it's like it kind of made me be better
Mm-hmm.
because if you sit and waddle in the sickness, it get worse. You know, it gets worse. Even your pain. If you're thinking about pain, even though you have it and you think about it all the time, the pain just stays there, just keep throbbing at you. Boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but once you don't think about it, it seems like it's really not there. You're gonna feel it, but not as severely. So I understand what the messenger was telling us.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get into that moment of a tired of sickness, then that tone scale goes all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
And then here you going back into something you're trying to come up out of.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see that because sometimes we can cradle our sickness too much
Mm-hmm.
and it overtake us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the problem get worse, then it's uncontrollable, then you got to have something else and do something else with it. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, all this is being, you know, it's real. And it's the only way it's real when it's practical application.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Now, along with that, Sister Patricia, when we start to sit still because of aches and pains, don't we get into a tone 2.5?
Oh yes, yes, yes,
Isn't that called boredom?
yes, sir. Yes,
Isn't the idle mind the devil's workshop?
yes.
So now we sit still. Now we want to start snacking, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now we just want to watch TV.
And to be aggressive. You get snappy, you want to argue, be
Mhm.
argumentative.
So what's the best thing to do when we start to get into that mode? Osama Muhammad said work, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do we all have that? It's like I don't want to say a poem, not a poem, but these are the words of the Most High Elijah Muhammad with regards to work. Do we have that?
Mm-hmm.
Does everyone have that?
I haven't.
Okay. I keep it right next to me on the wall so I can see it every day. Okay. If you don't have it, put it in the chat. I'll be more than happy to send you a copy of it. But that's why we got to work.
Mm-hmm.
Work is tone 20. You can't be tone 20 and 2.5 at the same time.
It won't happen. There's no balance.
You can't do it. Okay. So the disbelievers get boiling water to drink. Now let's see what the boiling water is. Okay, so at the opposite end of the spectrum, now we just looked at the four things that the believers get, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then at the opposite end of the spectrum represent individuals that don't get those four drinks, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So at the opposite end, their thoughts are not flowing like water, which means they're occluded, correct? It could also mean they're stuck on the time track. Well, isn't that the definition of aberration?
Yes, it is.
So the water's not flowing. Their thoughts are changing. Okay. Because the believers, they have rivers of milk unchanging, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then we connected that to ARC. Well, the opposite would be milk that's changing. Well, when milk is not right, it becomes what?
Water.
No,
Oil. I'm sorry, not water. It's oil.
it becomes, you open that carton and
Oil.
you accidentally get a taste of it. What do you want to do?
Throw it out.
And it's nasty. So if the milk unchanging represents what the believers get, then the opposite would be ARC breaks, correct?
Hmm.
If the believers have pleasure moments, then the disbelievers do not have pleasure moments, correct?
That's right.
So they don't have wine that's delicious to the drinker. And there are
Mhm.
some people, I've never came in contact with one, but I've read about this where you try to take someone back to find a pleasure moment and it's difficult for them to do that. Does that make sense? Pleasure moments are hard to find for some people, yes?
And is that because of the I mean, they're using that it is like a blockage of
Yeah. It's the
you
occlusion.
know, like don't I don't want to go there right now kind of moment.
Right, they're occluded. They can't. They're so occluded that they can't find the pleasure moment.
Mm.
Okay. And they don't have the honey that's been purified. And we said the honey purified represents processes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not engaging in the processes that would bring them to clear. In the text, it's called that they're unaccessible. Have you ever heard that term before?
Yes.
They're not accessible.
So
So
can you write that? Alf is saying, not you personally, but saying that there's no hope for that person to get into the stage of being clear because they so far deep into.
well, I would never say that there's no hope for anyone. It depends on how good the auditor is.
Mm-hmm.
Because certain auditors, if you understand how to use this tech, let's put it this way: if there was some that we couldn't reach, I don't think the minister would have wanted us to learn the tech.
Okay.
And I don't think it would be up to us to judge. We should at least unless a person is just outright violently psychotic, I would say don't even deal with that. But let us do the best we can to try to help as many people as we can help with the tech, and let Allah do the rest.
So that's like a person should continue, because when we were talking before, um, in the past, I was listening to, I can't think who said it, that a person should get audit as much as possible because when you slow down, there's a gap in between. Is correct me if I'm wrong. It's like the audit that you had previously is there no more. It's like came back again. What you tried to release. Is that what was said? Like,
Well, if you do auditing on a person, let's say you only do it once a week, you do an auditing on a person, 9 times out of 10, what is their home life like? If their home life is what keeps them in a chronic restimulation,
mm-hmm.
then auditing them once a week and then they go back to the environment, what's that environment doing? That environment
Yes,
is just bringing back all the
yes,
restimulation again. Does that make sense?
right.
Okay.
Environment,
So, it's about to audit, we want to get more than just a couple hours a week, especially if
right.
we live in an aberrated environment. The main
Mm-hmm.
thing is, remember, there's 4 valid therapies. If we can, we want to change that environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somehow we want to change the environment. But if we're going to get to auditing, just jump on it and get it.
Thank you for clarifying.
All praise due to Allah. So can we see how the believers in the 4 rivers and the relationship to those that don't follow the instructions and how they have the opposite side of those 4 rivers? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is everyone flowing with this? Is this making sense with everyone?
Yeah, it's bringing it together. I
Okay.
mean, once you present it, and things in front of you makes it look more better than.
Okay.
Sometimes things have to be broken down to its lowest terms, and to be able to have that person have understanding.
Okay.
And when you do the comparison, that's where it's like, okay, here we are right here.
Okay.
Well, this is really beautiful.
Okay. So now, not only do those that don't follow the instructions, they don't have access to these 4 rivers. They only have access to boiling water that rends the bowels asunder. Okay. Now, here we have what I would believe is another allegory. Are these like those who abide in the fire who are made to drink boiling water, so it rends their bowels asunder. Already, we're talking about those that are in Jannah that are in the red on the tone scale. Does that make sense? They're at the lower end, correct?
Right.
Okay. So those in the lower end of the tone scale, that's the fire, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the fire. And there's something about drinking boiling water, which has an allegorical understanding to it, and then how it renders the bowels asunder. The word fire in Arabic means hell. Okay. So the lower part of the tone scale, that's hell, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now the Arabic for the drink of boiling water, to drink, saka, means to draw water, to draw knowledge or information, or to borrow. Okay. So they're drinking, and it's funny. It's funny. This is what popped in my mind as I was reading this. The word saka also means sharecropping. And so what's the significance of sharecropping? Well, if you look at sharecropping, it means the contract over the lease of a plantation that's limited to one crop. Immediately, I said to myself, those that oppose the minister, they are intellectual sharecroppers, meaning they are going against the minister. Well, they're trying to go against the minister's words on limited knowledge that they're getting from their slave master.
Mm-hmm.
So mentally, those that want to say what they want to say about the minister are still on an intellectual plantation that's limited to one crop. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying
Yes,
to
sir.
oppose the minister or criticize the minister based on limited knowledge.
That's right. Always been.
So my new term for those that oppose the minister is intellectual sharecroppers.
Okay.
They're still on the slave master's plantation with one crop, and they're trying to deal with a man that has access to the width of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does that make sense, family?
Oh, yes, it does.
Okay. So are these like those who abide in the fire and who are made to drink boiling water, so it rends their bowels asunder? Boiling water means to be feverish. It means hot water. It means to be frantic or hectic. To be in fever, one of the definitions is a state of heightened or intense emotion or activity. Well, isn't that the lower tone scale?
Yes, it is.
Okay. It means to be agitated. That's overt hostility, that's antagonism, and that's covert hostility, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Okay. Have you ever been in hot water?
Mm-hmm.
That means to be in a difficult or dangerous situation. So to drink boiling water could mean, to me, if I'm drinking it, it means I'm internalizing a bad situation, or I'm engaging in activities that agitate or intensify the emotions that place us or place myself in a bad situation. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yes.
Is everyone else still on?
Sir.
Okay. I feel like Sister Patricia's the only one here. Is everyone still here?
No, sir, these are popping off so quick. I'm just like, wow.
Okay. Okay.
They're
So,
absorbing the knowledge, Brother Luke.
okay, I'll pray you do to Allah. So those that disbelieve, they don't get the water, they don't get the milk, they're not getting the honey, they're not getting the wine. So they don't have pleasure moments. They don't have ARC. They're not postulating. Their mind is not flowing because that is reserved for the Jannah, that is the tone scale that is above 3.0. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's sad though.
Okay. Those that are below are in another state of Jannah. They're in another garden. no agreement, no postulates, no flowing, no processing, no nothing, and all they have is boiling water to drink from. Meaning what? They put because of the heightened state of their emotions. Because when we get bored, and if we have heightened emotions, we're either angry, we're in apathy, or we're in grief, we're agitated. Don't we put ourselves in difficult or dangerous situations?
We do.
Those dangerous and difficult situations are the coins: compulsion, obsession, insanity, neuroses, and psychoses, correct?
Mhm.
In the language of, in the medical field, that's called addiction, obsessive compulsive disorder, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. So what is the result of internalizing the bad situation? This is where we're about to land the plane. Okay, it says, render the bowels asunder. I thought this was interesting. I said, this is gonna be, I'm waiting this, because like, as I'm going through this, I don't know where this is gonna lead to. So I get just as interested as you are. I'm like, okay, where's this going? The Arabic word, and I'm not even gonna try to pronounce this, the Arabic word for renders the bowels asunder. Asunder means to break, to prevent, to switch off, or to suspend. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's the
Yes,
Arabic.
sir.
Yes, sir.
So have you ever read about ARC breaks, sonic shutoffs, and Vizio shutoffs? Have you ever heard that before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So rendering the bowels asunder is connected to these ARC breaks. It's invalidation. It's being invalidated. It's being inhibited. And then bowels, the word bowels means gut or intestines. So the literal translation of this, I found it amusing. The literal translation for this is to break, to switch off, or to prevent the gut. Does that make sense? Really, that doesn't make sense, really? Does that make sense?
Well, it can.
It can, and it will. We're about to show how, because I was like, as soon as I read this, and Dr. Wadud, you might understand where I'm going with this. Isn't the intestines considered to be the lower brain?
Yes, sir. Correct.
And we also know that a lot of the neurotransmitters are produced in the gut, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's where we're going with this. Because now what happens is when a person is in the lower tone scale, when they're stuck in hostility, covert antagonism, overt hostility, apathy, and grief, by being on that tone level, that individual is producing the chemistry that's keeping them in an aberrated state. Did we know that?
Mm.
Our thought, low tone thought, produces chemistry.
So question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
if you are trying to audit someone, how do you assist them in switching those thought processes
What do you mean?
to that is preventing them from, so basically you have to find the engram then.
Yes, because that's what the processing is. The processing is finding the thoughts and basically reversing and removing them.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. And in addition to this, go ahead, Dr. Wadud.
Yes, sir. I had a thought about, as you mentioned, the neural transmitters that are in the gut, and it made me think about making wrong seem right or fair seeming.
Mm-hmm.
That one of those neurotransmitters is serotonin.
Mm-hmm.
and that's a feel good hormone or neurotransmitter. And so even though the gut is producing it, and it may be for a bad purpose, because the hormone or transmitter itself makes the body feel good, then that correlated with making wrong seem right, or making wrong seem be fair seeming.
Well, so what you're saying is we're making evil fair seeming because we're trying to get a hit or some feel good.
That you can look at it that way. I think my thought was from the angle of doing wrong, but the reactive mind of the gut is making us feel good even in the wrong that we're doing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. That was it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's how I'm looking at it, but we are, you know, some people say, well, I never use drugs, but we engage in behavior to either get a hit of serotonin or dopamine, correct?
And that's the drug.
Okay, so if a person is using heroin, the heroin is allowing the body to get a hit of dopamine, isn't it? People use various drugs, and it's not necessarily that drug is what that drug produces in the way of receiving dopamine, correct?
Induces, yep, induces.
So then someone who engages in eating a lot of sugary stuff, and I'm throwing myself out there, if the end result is dopamine in comparison to someone uh who might inject heroin or snort cocaine, the end result is dopamine, correct?
Both of them has the need of wanting it.
Okay. So then one druggie shouldn't be pointing the finger at another one, right? That's what I'm saying.
Right, sugar is a drug, so
It is. Yes.
but when you speak of the bowels and the intestines, you know, when you're talking about the boiling water, that damage your insides, and not only put the weight upon you, because when a person's body is diseased, your thoughts is not correct, they're not balanced well. So when you talk about the intestines and the bowels, if a person's keep feeding themselves mentally and physically, you know, there's no room for balance and knowledge. There's no room for knowledge because they can't absorb the knowledge, because all that's going on inside the intestinal walls and all the badness in there, it can't receive it because it's like a block, a shield. So once you
Good
get your
point.
gut
Good
ready,
point.
you know, and the body together, this is why it's important how to eat to live. Because once you get your body together, anything that comes at you that's going to build, we go back into the word enterprise. You know, this is, I see where all this is going, because once we get our health together, because you will be able to absorb knowledge better. When a person's eating a lot of pork, they can't hear nothing right. They can't hear anything right. You can't get through them no kind of way. You know, all of these makes it harder because they keep feeding themselves pork. And so that pork is diseasing inside their gut. So when you see it's going inside the gut and the bowels and intestinal walls, then here you are, you know, really lifeless, because they doing the same thing over and over and over. And they go further down. And so trying to come to somebody and talk to them or hand them something, it's a resistance, because what they've been feeding themselves physically, and then what they're not getting mentally, you know, then they're still feeding themselves mentally, you know, with the food. So all that comes together, and trying to get yourself into a state of clear mind.
I think that's one of the reasons why when you look at the bridge and going to clear, the purif is the first step. During the purif, you're getting all the toxins out of the body. Okay. And I think a couple of months ago, we did a Zoom meeting where we looked at the relationship between parasites in the body and aberrated thinking, correct? Okay, because the parasites in the body produce a chemistry that increase cravings. So some of us have cravings, and it's not us that's craving the food, it's the parasites that are craving the food.
Feeding off of it.
The parasites produce a chemistry that induces us into thinking that we want certain foods, but really we are the grub hub for the parasites. We are the delivery, we're going out and getting the food and delivering it to the parasites.
Mm-hmm.
So we are the parasitic grub hub. We are DoorDash for parasites.
Right.
Let me just put it that way. Okay.
In a new age.
Yeah. So they place their order and we go grab the delivery and we bring it back for them.
Oh goodness.
Okay. Let's see. I think we're gonna. So turning off the gut. So based on that, my thought was, and I'm gonna touch on this just briefly. There might only be a couple of slides left. I came across this article that says the brain and the gut are intimately connected and send signals back and forth.
Hmm.
So the author of the article by the name of Sharp says, emerging evidence suggests that imbalances in the gut microbiota can disrupt this communication, potentially leading to mental health disorders such as anxiety, depression, and even neurodevelopmental conditions. So what they're showing is there is a relationship between our gut flora and our mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this being the case, would that not also mean that by the fact that this environment is constantly producing processed foods and sugary foods, that our diet is producing an environment internally that's keeping us insane?
Yes. And that marijuana.
And yeah, that's not even like it used to be back in the day. Back in the day, you used to actually smell all
That
right.
chemical marijuana.
Now this stuff is just garbage. Here's the link if you want to read the full article. That's the hyperlink for the full article. But you know what? This information is not new, family, right?
Right.
Scientists today are just plagiarizing what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad already said.
Mm-hmm.
Because what did he say? He said we can eat the best food. We can take fast for 9 days or for 20 days or 30 days if we want to, and we will still suffer. We don't feed the brain with the right food.
That's
These
right.
two bodies, the brain and digestive tract, have much in common with one another. Whatever hurts one hurts the other. We must treat both well. So these scientists try to come up with all this information. All they did was they're taking the teachings, put it in that $30 word, scientific language. But the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad already taught us this. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan already taught us this. The brain and the gut, the brain and the digestive tract are connected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In holistic medicine, the small intestines, if you take off the front part of the body and look at the small intestines and you take off the skull, the small intestines looks almost identical to the brain. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And from what I was taught, the small intestines is the lower brain, and then the other brain is the higher brain. And they're both connected. One more article, it says the brain has a direct effect on the stomach and intestines. For example, the very thought of eating can release the stomach's juices before food gets there.
Mm-hmm.
This connection goes both ways. Which is why we're told not to chew gum.
Chew gum. Yep. I was going to say chew gum.
A troubled intestine can send signals to the brain,
Mm-hmm.
just as a troubled brain can send signals to the gut. Therefore, a person's stomach or intestinal distress can be the cause or the product of anxiety, stress, or depression. That's because the brain and the gastrointestinal system are intimately connected. However, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught this already.
Mm-hmm.
This is especially true in cases where a person experiences gastrointestinal upset with no obvious physical cause. For such functional GI disorders, it is difficult to try to heal a distressing gut without considering the role of stress and emotion. So you go to the doctor for medicine for the stomach, but the stomach is the effect, but the cause is mental. So if you don't fix the mental, then the person has a chronic problem with the stomach, correct?
That's true.
So that means they'll be taking prescription drugs how long?
Mhm. Eternally.
Until they stop thinking, when they're dead,
Right. Eternally.
okay? And that right there is the hyperlink for that article. Okay, that's from Harvard Education. So in closing, in summary, our state of aberration is constantly being controlled through the chemical manipulation of the composition of the digestive system, meaning whatever is going on in our gut is keeping us mentally unstable. You gotta understand, this sword is cutting both ways because this is the issue I'm dealing with right now. We are being controlled through food. So as we feed on the negative media on a mental level and on the diet of this world on the physical, it is manipulating us on the mental as well as the emotional. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So this kind of forms just like the ARC triangle, like if you have affinity and reality, it'll bring the communication, or if you have reality and communication, it'll bring the affinity, correct? You with me?
Yes, sir.
Same
Correct.
concept. If you have let's see, I think I put it down here. If you have the media and the environment, you know, if we're home, we're in a certain environment and we're watching certain movies, don't we have a tendency to snack on certain foods?
Try not to.
Okay. If we have a desire for certain foods, we put ourselves in the environment, then we're going to watch TV. So these things are interconnected. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Do you remember when we talked about the slave trader, the slave maker, and the slave owner on a mental level? Do you remember when we talked about that? So we know the
That was
slave
wild.
trader is the one who got the slaves from
Right. That was a while back. Yes.
1855, correct? That's the slave trader, correct?
Right.
The slave maker is the one who made the slaves down in the
Mhm.
Caribbean in those 64 hidden years, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Slave owner were the ones that was the final destination. Well,
Mhm.
and now take that past tense and look at that in present tense. Who's the slave trader in the modern time? The slave trader in the modern time is marketing.
That's right.
Okay. Don't these companies trade on Wall Street?
All day.
Okay. The slave maker represents the chemists that are putting the chemistry in the food
Mhm.
that's making us addicted. They're the slave maker. The slave owners are Burger King, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A. Those are the slave owners. And some of us keep going back and forth to the plantation, correct?
Right. Just like gamblers, they say there's something there to keep them keep coming
It
in those
is.
casinos.
Mhm. So quick summary. The four rivers, water, milk, wine, and honey, could be an indicator of four concepts found in the text: theta or flow, ARC, pleasure moments, and processing. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Do we agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The drinking of boiling water could be the equivalent of engaging in activities that excite the emotions or low desires. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fasting cleanses the physical body and also produces an internal environment that allows the reduction of mental illness. Remember, the Most High Elijah Muhammad said, I think he said 90% of our problems can be cured through fasting, correct?
Yes, sir.
Would that include mental?
Yes.
I would think so. Engaging in unrighteous conduct, which is drinking boiling water, produces an internal environment that keeps one stuck in an aberrated state. Can we agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay. In Introduction to Scientology Ethics, he talks about relationship between overts and withholds. And overts and withholds is like, I'll explain like this. Overts and withholds, wait, let me put this back. Overts and withholds, when I read that part of the book, it reminded me of Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2, question number 8, where it talks about drawing the water up in the earth's rotation, drawing the water up in a fine mist that the naked eye can hardly detect. And then as it gathers in certain currents and then distills back. Y'all familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Basically
sir.
what he's saying is when we have overts and withholds, meaning the word overt can be synonymous with sin, and withholds is just the stuff that we do that we don't tell anyone about. The more we do overts and withholds, it accumulates in a fine mist that naked eye can hardly detect.
Mm-hmm.
Or overts and withholds that we have, it distills back and it produces mental illness. Okay. That's that. So when we are making our salat, what are we doing? We are relieving ourselves of overts and our withholds
Mm-hmm.
with the
Cleansing.
thought that we should not go back
That's right.
engage in those again. And what the Most High Elijah Muhammad says in Message to the Black Man, he says every time we make our prayers, as long as it has not been a mortal sin, then all the sins between that prayer and the last one are wiped away. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we're not allowing anything to gather in order for it to distill back. But it's the overts and the withholds. Is what we do and the stuff that we're not praying to get up off of us that becomes a weight that we carry. Then we weigh other than our own self. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Came to the point.
Maybe that's what produces the earthquakes in our life. Who knows? So if the garden and its 4 rivers represents a mind that is clear, flowing with ideas, cognitions, and postulates, and has found agreement on all 8 dynamics, then this could represent the transition from the 7th to the 8th dynamic. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, our thoughts can transcend. Remember, it says the garden, the width of the heaven and the earth, right? So now our thoughts can transcend the width of the earth when we're talking about physical knowledge, which is 7,126 miles, and extend the circumference of our activity to 76 quintillion miles, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Our mind is expanding to the width of our universe. So then all that to say that the garden, our mind is not limited to just our environment that we see. When we get rid of all this stuff out of our system, our mind expands and we expand the width of the universe.
That's right. That's so true.
That is the end of part 1.
Extraordinary session.
Very good.
Does anyone go ahead, brother doctor?
I was putting my hand down at that exact moment, but you did ask me to remind you of something about the 4 humors at the end.
Yes. So how would the 4 humors connect with the digestive system? That might be an assignment, but how would those 4 humors connect with the digestive system? And the digestive system, when it becomes unbalanced, is what causes us to have different sicknesses and diseases. I guess that would be something for us to study and address when we come back.
Yes, I think it would have to do with the severity of the aberration, because certain aberrations, certain sicknesses, will cause just a phlegm buildup. Some sicknesses are going to cause you to have ulcers, so therefore that would produce some type of blood in the intestines. And some sicknesses like bacterial stuff is gonna produce some type of yellowish, greenish type of outcome in the intestines. So I think it would depend on how aberrated or how low on the tone scale that you are, and your gut would manifest those humors in that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else before we close it out? Would anyone like to hear those few words that I found from Brother Robin?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I accidentally, by design, came across it as I was going through something else. I was just looking for something and I came across it. And I missed that, brother. Let me see, where did I? Okay.
As Brother Nuri would have said, accidentally on purpose.
Accidentally on purpose. Okay, let me go to, give me 1 second. Yeah, accidentally on purpose. Okay. And so I guess while I'm here, this will be a little commercial break for Supreme Wisdom Meets Supreme Technology. Okay, so here we are at the page. Family, we're at almost at 8,000 views at this point.
Oh, praise you.
We are at almost 8,000 views. Let me just pull up the actual facts on it real quick, because this is not just about me, this is about us, analytics. And let's look at lifetime. What are we at? We're at 7,481 views.
That's beautiful.
Praise
That's
be to
good. Spreading that knowledge.
Hey, I'm trying to do what I can in the time that I have left, which I don't know what that time is.
That's why I take notes. You know, Dr. Minister Ava Mail, I'll be pleased with her. I'm glad she brought, it was a brother stood up and said that he had got her a notebook full of notes, because, you know, it's good to leave something behind, and someone next generation can be able, this is how all of our past histories has been. In
Yes,
the
ma'am.
writing of the wall, the ancient times, someone was there note taking, and they wrote it down to be able to keep it going. And you giving us your knowledge, and we're taking notes and we're using it, and we're giving it to others, our grandchildren, children, you know, it goes all the way down. So this is a beautiful thing.
Yes, ma'am. By life grace. So here's words from my beautiful brother, Brother Robin. You, brother.
All is well with the family. Thank Allah for His grace and mercy. I just want to share this with you. Maybe I'll get a chance to share it later. Brother, I just got back from Mecca on a tech. That's what we call tech Mecca.
Tech Mecca.
Tech Mecca. Flag. It's like the top org on the planet, on the land. And it's very powerful. We are truly on the right course. Maybe one day soon I can just share pictures and stuff and share with you all. Sister Naira, Brother David, Brother Luke Morris, Sister Linda, our beloved Brother Martin. Look, all of you all are giants. Ain't no mistake, none of you on this call. You all were chosen, handpicked by Master. So I would just say that. What that means to you is what it means, telling you the truth. But here's what I want to say as it relates to said something about being able to see into it. I hear that correctly. You see what they mean? Well, all of you and all of us have the ability to see what is the unseen, how the Holy Quran opens up. You know, this book, there's no doubt in it. It's a guide to those who believe in the unseen. All of us have the ability. That's one of the definitions of wisdom. It's being having insight. Whereas I'll give you a quick example. All of us have that ability on this call. And if you're an auditor, you definitely have that ability. Question is, how do you see an engram? Do you see an engram with the physical eye, or do you see it with the light of your mind? How do you see a demon circuit? You see people your whole life. Hey, I can't do this. I can't do this. Before you learn the technology, you just being a person, you know, they don't believe they can do it. But after getting the technology, you see a person saying, I can't do this. And you look deep into them and you see the demon circuit controlling them, commanding them to say, I can't do it. But you didn't see the demon circuit with your eyes, your two eyes. You saw it with your third eye, or the light, the eye in your mind. You know, so, yeah, so like when you're in session, how do you see engram? You see it with the light of the mind. So when brother talking about X-Men, they had different abilities. And all the movies are about us. And the more I see life, the more I learn this tech. The more I learn how valuable we are. We're so valuable. And we are very valuable. I'm saying in the Nation of Islam, with this technology, you are very, very valuable and vital in the entire planet. Our last point is this: your awareness level. See, the higher you are on the tone scale, the greater your awareness. The greater your awareness, the greater the light in your mind is. The greater the light in your mind is, the more you can see. You know, that's why you might come out of session or you have what's called, brother, we're talking about a cognition. Oh, now I see something. Your level of awareness has raised and the light has increased in your mind. So the things that were hidden in darkness become visible as you go the higher your awareness. And amazing. I pray, brother, one day soon I can share on that bridge chart. All our lessons is on the bridge chart. It's right on the chart. But anyway, I just wanted to share that part. Yes, and see the unseen. And see in the people. See they probably what's in their child. A lot of us been doing our whole life, we just didn't have a name. But the more we learn, be reminded, the more we go into it, the higher our awareness. So I pray that makes sense. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Robin. Here's the thought that comes to mind as you're talking. So then, is it safe to assume that the higher up on the tone level we can go, the deeper into the problem book we can see? That's number one. Can we also say that our inability to come out of the lower tone scale is what disallows us from even interpreting the lessons and the problem book?
Yes. And can I say this one thing, brother?
Of course.
Please. One of our classes that we had.
You're not driving, are you?
No, sir. No, I had to pull over, man. No way. Thank you all, man, for that. I love y'all. Thank you, Karen. One of our classes was the awareness level on the bridge. Meaning there's a certain awareness that one has to have. But there are also levels below awareness. Guess how many levels are below awareness?
How many?
34. Problem book. These are the 34 problems that you have. Each one is dealing with awareness. Dianetics is one on awareness chart. That's one level of awareness. That's number one. So the reason why some believers won't do Dianetics, their awareness level is not high enough. They can't even see. The problem book is your mind. And each one of those problems are representative of your awareness, 34 awareness. The bottom of the problem book, number 34 is, if I'm not mistaken, it's unawareness. Like dead. It means dead. You're dead. You're at 34. You're literally not aware of anything. You're living, not aware. You're considered dead. I'm gonna find out that if you look on the end of that chart, brother, below is the bottom of the chart. It's the last one on there. But the point is, yes, brother, that's exactly right. And the more we learn this tech, the more we're reminded of our gifts, skills, and talents, the more we remove and stop believing that out this body, the higher you rise, the more you realize the body is just my vehicle. It's my Mercedes Benz. That's all it is. And what I experience life with. Hot, cold, oil, grit, wind, rain, touch, sight, smell, hearing, all of those are just perceptions. Why I experience it. I'm in the ultimate vehicle. That's all it is. But the more you rise up, the more you realize you're not the body, but you're high your awareness. And you're exactly 100%.
So our lessons have safeguards. So our lessons have locks on them, in other words.
Yes. Yeah, but see, you have to, so what only Allah can give you. That's how I see that. Only Allah can show you certain things. Only He can raise your awareness to allow you to see this. Okay, then okay, good lesson. All right, now I'm gonna raise your awareness level so you can enter into this and see this. But if He don't raise your awareness, that's why Allah says in the Quran, Allah has covered their sight and their hearing. You can't even see it. He'll take your awareness away, where you are trapped inside this body like a tail. That's all you can do with it. Things come like an animal. God. The body becomes God. Operate like you're in prison in the body.
So is that like the 3 locks of the Panama Canal that take you from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific, from storms?
Yes, brother. Yeah, exactly. You're a scientist.
No, I heard the minister say that.
Yes, brother. That makes sense.
The minister taught on the 3 locks in the Panama Canal, going from the Atlantic Ocean, which is where the storms originate, to the Pacific Ocean. And the word Pacific is the word pacify, which means to be calm. So we're raised from stormy weather, low tones, to the Pacific, high tones, in 3 stages. Praise be to Allah.
I'll just say this last point. We are more important. I'll say this. And I don't want to bring money in it. Sometimes we get distracted. But there are billionaires, listen to me, multi-millionaires and billionaires who I met, who are waiting on us to awaken. Waiting, literally, on the nation of, I'm talking about you, not somebody else, not in Turkey, not in Mecca, Arabia. I'm talking about you, the nation of Islam. We get this tech in a ride. They're waiting on you and on us. You'll see. Wait and see. Keep doing this. Start in your house. Start with your family, self-analysis. Start using the tech, because the entire world is waiting on us. On this, I'm telling you. So I hope you can have that. I hope that's real to you. I would just say, have a better, not saying arrogance, but know that you are important. I don't care what you've been through. I don't care what your circumstances are right now. I'm telling you, the world is waiting on you. Last thing, and I swear I'm gonna be shut my mouth. Minister said it on his 90th birthday. He said, when Saul, that man is a God. That man is God. He said, when Saul came to anoint one of the sons, he said, those who looked the part, the sons who were well educated and, they were chiseled and, they looked the part. He's like, okay, I want to anoint your sons. Like, oh, this one not it. Not this one. Like, don't you have another son? You know what I'm saying? You talking about David, the one out there in the field, in the streets? Yeah. The black sheep of the family. You talking about the one that keeps kicked out the mosque? The one get kicked out the mosque? You mean the one that's raising hell? The one that had a couple marriages, fractures the law, not perfect. Come on, that one. Yeah. Bring them in. That's the one. It's him. It's her. About us. All the hell you've been through was preparation for you. All the casting out, all when you felt you was alone. Allah was with you. Always. You were chosen. Look, you had to go through that so we can see the content of your heart. All the hell you've been through, you still here. Yeah. That shows you love your people and you love the mission. And everything he promised is coming. It's coming. Just hold on and keep moving. It's coming. I seen it. I want y'all to sit me. I seen it. I'm gonna feel like Dr. King. I seen the promised land. I've seen it. But I plan on getting there with you. I plan on getting there with you. But I'm telling you, and we're gonna be doing some things, and each of y'all see it. Things being worked out behind the scenes, being even aware of. I just want to tell you, you love the best nation on earth. I'm telling you, sisters, it's your time. Your time. Pardon my passion, but I just love y'all. Sir. You are immensely valuable. And just if you don't take the time and just see yourself in the palace that you are. See yourself in an auditorium delivering Dianetics to thousands. See yourself doing that, like you already see yourself. That's who you are. We just gotta work to make it a manifest, make it a reality. That's who you are. One thing I learned from the having this and survival workshops that I really put on. If you can see it, you can have it. See it in your mind, you can have it. I don't care what it is. See it in your mind.
Well, family, that's our big brother.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, ma'am.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar. And during Ramadan, part of what we'll be doing is I'm gonna try to find all the clips I can with Brother Robin, and both him and Brother Bateen. We're gonna keep the spirit alive in this work. They both did a great work, and we're gonna make room for them to continue to do a great work by sharing their words during Ramadan. As we got about what, 20 days? 20 days out? Give or take?
Yes, here it's coming soon.
Okay. So inshallah, we'll get more from Brother Robin and Brother Bateen and keep their spirit alive in this work. Does anyone have any final words, final thoughts, final statements before we close it out? I pray Allah. Again, I always tell myself I'm gonna finish up by 8 o'clock, and I lose track of time. And I thank you all for your patience. And who wants the final word?
Happy Savior's Day.
Happy Savior's Day, family. So there will be no meeting on Wednesday. There will be no meeting on Sunday. Let's see. So we will probably see each other. Well, everyone who is not traveling to Savior's Day? Who is not traveling to Savior's Day? Is there anyone here that's not traveling to Savior's Day? Sister Patricia's not traveling. Anyone else?
I'm not, I see.
Okay, Sister Peggy. Anyone else? You still with us, Sister Ania?
Sister Carol is not.
Sister Carol's not. Well,
No,
I tell you what. Since I'm not pulling out till Thursday morning. We will go ahead and meet on Wednesday morning.
You don't have to prepare yourself to leave. What Wednesday be?
Oh no, it don't take me long to prepare. Don't take me long at all to prepare. So, inshallah, we'll see each other Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. and we'll figure out what the topic is going to be. And then after the 21st, we will see each other again, God willing, on the 28th. So with that being said and done, family, I pray a lot that you enjoyed the message, that you got something out of it. I pray that it helped. I pray that you got your case gained. I pray that you learned something. Keep studying your tech. Keep your head in the books. And be ready to do the work of clearing the minds of our people in the near future. Let us go ahead and close out in prayer. Attention prayer. I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed Satan. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. Master the day of judgment in which we now live, thee alone do we serve, thine aid do we seek. Please, Allah, guide us on the straight path, the path upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not the path upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray if they have heard thy teachings. Ameen. God bless us all, family. Love you. Happy Savior's Day.
Happy Savior's Day.
Happy Savior's Day to you.
I pray to see you Wednesday, and then I pray to see you this weekend. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, sir.
Allah,
Alaikum
Allah bring
salam.
you there and back safely.
Yes, ma'am.